All right.
Yeah, I think I don't see Margaret for vote counter. Are you here?
I'm here.
Okay, perfect. Then we have everyone. Cool.
All right. Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to our July 11th Women in Product Toastmasters meeting. I am Lori Edwards, and I'm going to be your Sergeant of Arms today and filling in for Amy. And you might also see me fill in a couple other roles a little bit. But for guests joining us for the first time, you may have noticed that you're muted when you entered the meeting, but you can toggle your mic on and off when you're ready to speak. And we encourage you all to keep your cameras on so we can get to know each other a little bit more. Additionally, you also heard that this meeting is being recorded, as it is our policy by participating in our club meetings that you agree that the recording will be available on our club's YouTube page as well as our Facebook page. So today our meeting topic is user testing. User testing is a critical part of our work as product managers and can be done in several different ways. So I look forward to learning from you all today on how you implement user testing as a part of your product tool belt. At this time, I would normally introduce our president, Erica Tamburo, but she is unable to attend today. Therefore, in true product manager fashion, I'm putting on my president hat and you get to hear more from me. So as the president, you will notice that we have another star-studded lineup for today. But before we jump into our scheduled programming, I'd like to take a second just to describe our meeting for our guests that have joined us. Today, you're going to hear 3 speeches from club members and then a round of feedback from our various functionary roles, which will keep improving us all in different aspects of our speaking. Each of them will explain their roles in just a moment. And following the prepared speeches, we will have a section of impromptu speaking called table topics. These table topics is where the table topics master, which I believe is Clara today, can call on anybody, including guests. So as a guest, I encourage you to participate and have some fun with this section. It's always a good time. Today, it appears that we do have at least one guest that I can see. If you are a guest and have not renamed yourself, could you go ahead and do that so I can easily find you? But while we get started, Jyothi, do you want to introduce yourself and say hi to the club and maybe what your goal is for joining us?
Sure. Hi, everyone. This is my first meeting with Women in Product Toastmasters. I have briefly been a member at a different Toastmasters, Southwest Project Management Toastmasters. And I have always loved to be part of a club, but it's been challenging since it's a way I have to travel and it's during the work day, it's late in the evening. So when I came across the Women in Product Toastmasters, me being a product manager myself, discussing topics that I love, something on a Sunday in the afternoon, it perfectly fit into my wish list. And this is something I could only dream of. So would love to be part of this club and listen to you all great folks talking about many interesting topics, improve my communication skills as well as knowledge, and develop deep connections with every one of you. That's my goal for joining this club.
Great, thank you. And it does look like we do have another guest. I apologize if I don't pronounce your name correctly, but I think it is Sirisha. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about why you joined us today?
Yeah, thanks, Laurie. Can you guys hear me fine?
Yep.
Good morning. It's morning at least in Seattle. I'm from Seattle. I work for T-Mobile right now. I'm working as product manager. I'm also part of another Toastmaster, which is a T-Mobile bottle. But again, due to COVID, we had very less participation, and we are not meeting past 2 months. So I thought if I should find another Toastmasters. I'm a member there. Actually, I'm an officer as well in that Toastmasters. So the reason for me being here is I attended this summit last month, and it was amazing. I learned so much from all the great women in product. So and I think I got a reference for this Toastmasters from that summit. And I want to get to a senior level of what I'm doing, and obviously what Jyothi said, I want to sharpen my communication skills and learn more about and the Toastmasters Club, which is more pertaining to product management. This is like I feel I'll only benefit from this group, so that's the reason why I'm here today.
Wonderful. It's great to have you.
Thank you.
Is there
Over to you, Toastmaster. Is that how do you say it?
any other guests that we have joining us that I missed? No? All right. So we do also have 4 new club members. Woohoo! Thanks for joining us that I'd like to take a moment and welcome to the club. So Kirsten, welcome to the club. And it looks like actually, Jyothi, you're going to join us officially, huh? You're going to become an official club member?
Yeah, that's right.
Woo-hoo.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
And Heather as well has joined us. And and it looks like the last one is, oh, I might mess up your name too. I'm sorry. Anmola?
Amelia.
I gotta write that down. Amelia. Welcome to the club. We're happy to have you all. So today after the club meeting, we are going to do a Q&A session. And then for all of you new members, after the next club meeting, we'll do a little onboarding session and walk you through pathways and all of that stuff. So if anybody has questions, whether you're a member or a guest, you can stay after less than 15 minutes and ask your questions. Any questions that you have, nothing's off the table. All right, so moving right along, I am going to introduce our anchor for today's show, which is our Toastmaster, Rosie Hernandez. Rosie is a longtime club member and an inspiring product manager. As we kind of heard a little bit earlier, I think she's about to start her first product management job, which is exciting. She currently works in sales operations at an e-learning company, and outside of work, she runs the I Am project. It's a scholarship and mentoring network she co-founded to support women of color in STEM. They have an awesome Instagram channel that I follow. You guys should follow her too. She goes live all the time. It's really cool to see that happen. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Rosie. Take it away.
Thank you for the introduction, Lori. Hi, everyone. I hope you are all having a great day. It is my pleasure to introduce to you all the theme of the day. It is user testing. And as Lori briefly mentioned, user testing is extremely important for a product manager. I'll go a little bit into what it is. User testing encompasses the process of determining the user experience and usability of a product before it is even launched. And user testing is crucial because it helps us determine if a product will satisfy the needs of the user. It also allows us to know if it's going to be easy to use and what the user's behaviors and preferences will be to the products. And most importantly, it helps us uncover any potential problems that might be in the product. It also allows us to, be able to have some agile methodologies to improve the product and consider any other things and view any other things that we might have not considered prior to the launch. Lastly, one of the things that I wanted to leave you with was that you all should consider doing some user testing in the early stages. You don't need to have a finalized product to do some user testing. Sometimes user testing in the early stages can actually save you a lot of money and time and resources in the long run, because it allows you to know anything where you might have missed a crucial important piece of information or learn of a user behavior that you hadn't previously considered. One of the examples I wanted to leave you with was McDonald's. When they were putting together their first version of their mobile app, they conducted some user testing and they realized that the app didn't look as appealing as it did on one engineer's phone, right? And so when users were using it, the text might have been too small. It wasn't allowing for great interaction with the app. It also was missing some key important things when it comes to ordering a meal, being able to customize your order And all these things McDonald's learned and was able to then pivot and make sure that when they did launch their next version of the app to that small user testing group, they would then have a product that would be more user friendly and would then allow them to, continue to get more customers and in the long run save them a lot of headaches. So I think user testing is extremely important. It helps you make some great decisions as you uncover different problems. Perfect. And now I'm going to pass it over to Liz, who is our general evaluator. She's going to go deeper into some of the roles that our other members have.
Great. Thank you for that. So as the general evaluator, I will be introducing the speech evaluation team at the end of today's meeting. And then after each speech evaluation report, I'll be providing an overall evaluation on everything that takes place in today's meeting. So this will include the meeting opening, the Toastmaster and other functional roles, and the evaluations themselves. So with that brief intro, I'll hand it back to you, Madame Toastmaster.
Thank you. Awesome. So we're going to move on to our next part of the agenda, which is introducing our grammarian, who will share with us the word of the day. Today's grammarian is Anwisha, and here she is.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests, as grammarian, it is my responsibility to pay close attention to all speakers, listening carefully to their language usage. I'll take note of any misuses of the English language, as well as any outstanding quotes, words, sayings, or thoughts. As grammarian, it is also my duty to introduce the word of the day. And for today's word of the day, I went over all possible words that we would typically think around user testing, and nothing struck closer to me than the word hypothesis, which basically means a supposition or proposed explanation made on the basis of limited evidence as a starting point for further investigation. An example of using the word would be, Sophie's treatment was part of a major international study offering new proof of this hypothesis. So I will be giving a word of the day report as well as grammatical usage report when called upon during the meeting after the speeches. So thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Sorry, that mute button got away from me. Thank you so much for the word of the day. Love the word hypothesis. Can't wait to use it. And now we're moving on to my favorite part of the meeting. It's going to be the prepared speeches. And to kick it off, we have Jennifer, who will be sharing with us her speech titled Saving Time. Jennifer is an experienced product manager with over 2 decades of software development, product management, and agile transformation. And here she is now.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, and thank you, fellow Toastmasters. Can you hear me? Can I get a thumbs up? Okay. All right. So according to a study conducted by Bain and Associates, on average, senior executives spend about 50% of their time in meetings, while the average mid-level manager spends around 35% of their time in meetings. And a whopping 37% of meetings are considered to be adding absolutely no organizational value. I'm often myself in meetings that require some sort of status reporting or escalation that needs some kind of critical attention. And I took a look at my own calendar, especially in these COVID times, and I realized I spend an awful lot of time in meetings. I spend about 15% of my time in status meetings and about 50% of my time just trying to understand if an issue is a risk, if it's being escalated, or if it's just informational. So I decided to do a little bit of research on how people can better effectively communicate issues and escalations in a way that matters to leaders, and most importantly to product managers. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to get feature functionality out to the customers, and sometimes we have timeframes that we have to abide by. Most of these types of escalations have to do with those projects running late or going to market activities being delayed. And we all know that the type of work that we do as product managers is incredibly reliant on matrix organizations, people who are coming from different disciplines to get the work done. And according to projectmanagement.com, the real difficulty or challenge in escalating an issue is the right time, knowing when the right time it is to raise it. We've all heard of the story of the shepherd boy who cried wolf. He cried wolf so often for just meaningless things that the villagers stopped believing him. And so when the wolf truly came, no one paid attention to his cries, nor did anyone help him. So we don't want to escalate minor issues, and not escalating an important issue too late is also not right. Timely escalation gives product managers and leaders a chance to reduce either their scope, modify their time commitments, or potentially even bringing in new people. So what does an effective escalation look like? Escalations occur when something happens outside of the norms. Leaders in the organization structure processes in a way to handle the normal operating procedures. In software development, though, a lot of unpredictable things happen all the time. I was sitting in a product status meeting review where a Scrum Master shared that about half of the sprint was lost because of an environmental issue. I came to know that this affected more than one team. Follow-up questions came to mind. Can the teams absorb the impact? How will this delay the overall timelines? Do we need to message or communicate delays to customers? Do we need to readjust the scope? Who's handling this issue? Is this even still an issue? Is it a recurring issue? How often does this happen? And specifically, what can people not do in this environment that's down? Are they able to not log in? What's happening? What have teams tried to do so far to mitigate this? Is this even an escalation? What do we need to do? What is the Scrum Master even trying to convey? And after digging in, it turns out this was an issue that product managers knew about, and they were already proactively trying to work with their teams, but it turned out application development leaders were completely unaware of the issue. And yes, it was definitely an issue and an escalation of sorts, but it didn't come across that way. What it really came down to was a breakdown in communication. So when talking about issues, what I'd like to convey is follow these clear steps, and it'll save everyone a lot of time. These are recommendations that I sourced from Expert Employee, a company founded by Dan Sawyer, who's an expert in working in management and HR, along with PMI, the Project Management Institute. So the first recommendation is 1, articulate what is the issue and what's the impact. Is this a high risk situation? Do we have time sensitive opportunities here? Why are we concerned about this issue? And most importantly, be specific. Instead of saying 5 days of time was lost because the environment was down, say QA was unable to test because they could not log into the system. The result was 5 days of lost QA time, which impacted the launch of these specific features by August 15th. If this continues to progress as it currently is and continues to repeat, we are highly unlikely to meet that time frame, and more scope will have to be reduced or the time will have to extend. See how the language there is so different. The second point is, what do we know and what additional information is needed? Summarize that information into digestible chunks and state the unanswered questions with current progress, including who are the people that are currently involved and who needs to be involved. Originally, the information provided didn't articulate anything about what is happening or even identification of what unanswered questions were. So in this example, adding on, we've tied off with product management, we're actively working to access scope. Developers are on board with testing and QA in their environment, and it turns out they're not able to log into it. Developers are also starting to look into why they're not able to log in. See how much more specific that is about what you had done up to this point? And lastly, what's the desired outcome? Why are you even talking about this information? And is this even an escalation? Do you need assistance? Or are you just trying to tell me and everyone that this is just a status for awareness? So as mentioned earlier, this was an escalation of sorts. In actuality, the developers just needed help. And it would have been helpful if the Scrum Master said, however, the developer does not know who to contact in release management to gain access. That's much more tangible. And looking back at this exercise, it took about 5 hours to get the answers related to these basic questions, and countless hours of getting people together to understand and acknowledge it was even an issue and mobilize around it. So the next time you find yourself needing to escalate an issue, follow these 3 basic steps. Articulate what is the issue and what's the impact. Summarize what you know and what additional information is needed. And what's your desired outcome? What are you asking for by presenting this information? And you'll find you'll have just saved everyone quite a bit of time. So with that, I'd like to turn it back to our Toastmaster, Rosie. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that speech, Jennifer. I'm definitely going to go back and listen to it after it's posted on our YouTube channel. Now we're going to take a 1-minute pause to jot down some feedback, and feel free to DM it over to Jennifer. We all have different perspectives of how to best prepare a speech, so it's always helpful to have as many different notes and feedbacks as possible. Monique, would you be able to start a timer for 1 minute, please?
We have reached a minute.
Perfect. Thank you. Now we have Ashley as our next prepared speech. It is going to be her icebreaker speech. So she titled it, How I Pivoted into Product Management. Ashley is an Austin, Texas product manager in the making. Currently, she is a product specialist with Keller Williams. As a product specialist, Ashley helps product managers, support teams, and developers identify and implement product enhancements to enable real estate agents to leverage the company tech products in their day-to-day business. Outside of work, she enjoys reading, learning to code, and coffee. I definitely agree on that last part. And take it away, Ashley.
Fantastic. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, for that lovely introduction. And good afternoon or good morning, my fellow members and guests. My name is Ashley Lawson, and I'm currently a product specialist over at Keller Williams. And today I want to share with you my journey of how I actually pivoted my career over into product management. In 2016, I moved to Austin and began working in the architecture and engineering industry. In that role and in that industry, I was a proposal coordinator. And in that role, it was my responsibility to pull tools from marketing, sales, technical writing, and also graphic design to pull together a package to present to potential clients in both the private and public sectors. With 4 years under my belt, I came to a fork in the road of if I really was passionate about that role, if I really wanted to go another 4 years as a proposal coordinator. Ultimately, I discovered that I wasn't wanting to do that for 4 more years, nor did I want to pursue that any further. So with that, I devised a plan to pivot my career and actually make some changes to something better. The first thing I did was create a plan. By trade, I'm an organizer. I love to have a plan, and I like to be fairly somewhat organized in terms of how I want to move forward. So I actually leveraged 2 sources to help me with that. The first one was a book called Design Your Life by Bill Burnett and Dan Evans. And the premise of that book was basically asking me questions of what I envisioned for a career. I didn't want to lose any skills that I had already had at this point, but I also wanted to make sure that I was finding something that would be challenging. And after a lot of searching and then making my plan, I discovered I wanted to become a product manager. I also used another resource. The second resource was another book titled Limitless by Jim Quick. And the premise of that book was to make sure that I could understand how my mind works a little bit better and how I could leverage tools that were going to help me learn faster and also retain information better. So with those resources and with a plan, I felt like I could move on to the next step, which was making sure I had a supportive network. And for me, my support network included professionals who were already working in product management that could help me reassess my plan, but also make sure that I was staying on track. In addition to having a professional support network, I made sure that I still stayed connected to my family and friends. They're also very important in my growth, and they also point out when I'm slacking a little bit and I can get back on track. And then lastly, I joined Women in Product Toastmasters Club. Honestly, this is a little scary, but it's an indicator to me that I'm on the right path. There were certain bits about my speech that I wanted to improve, and being a part of this group is already putting me along the right path to becoming a product manager and speaking eloquently. Now that I have a plan and I have my support network in place, one other thing I needed was to make sure that I take care of myself. And granted, self-care can mean something totally different to everyone. But for me, it was important to take time to read or actually visit museums. I have an undergrad in art history, and that's the foundation of my creativity. Outside of that, it can be as simple as just getting up earlier in the morning and having a cup of coffee just to start my day off right. So with all of those things that I've put together for myself to pivot my career, it's been pretty much successful. Now I see myself as a future product manager, but right now being a product specialist is perfect and fulfilling. I'm getting to learn about user testing, also how to hypothesize whenever we run labs to get user feedback. In addition to that, one thing I keep in mind is a quote by Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. The culmination of creating a plan, having a support network, and making sure I take care of myself have been all of the things that have made me who I am now. And with that, I thank you so much for your time this afternoon, and I'm going to return it back to the Toastmaster.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashley. That was a great icebreaker speech. I'm going to ask Monique for another 1-minute timer so that we can prepare our notes and feedback for you. And then again, feel free to DM them over to her so that she has those. Perfect.
We've reached our minute.
Awesome. Looks like we're at time. Awesome. So for our final prepared speech of the day, we have Sarah, who I believe is a fellow Phoenician here in Arizona. She has held numerous positions in product over the last 8 years. And today she's going to tell us a little bit about herself in her icebreaker speech titled, "What Doesn't Kill Me?"
Can everyone hear me okay? Yes, great. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. I have a magnet in my kitchen and it states, "What doesn't kill you will make you stronger." That's become my mantra over the past few years, and let me tell you why. I grew up in rural New England. I was an only child of parents that were up in age, and Swiss German was the language that we learned, that I learned in my household. And when I first started first grade, I could not read, write, and spoke very little English. So I was placed into what they call special education classes. And as a small child, it was very intimidating, and at times it was somewhat isolating. But what makes you, what you feel like will break you actually makes you stronger. I developed such a love of books. I started to become engrossed in them, reading whenever I could. And my family ended up moving to another part of the state. I entered a new school system, and I realized, I was told that I was actually reading 2 grades above where I should have been. And that love grew with me for the written word. As a young woman, I moved from New England to the state of Washington, and I worked my way through school. I ended up earning a Bachelor of Science with honors at night while working in a full-time support role. That degree actually opened doors to me. I found myself in 2 promotions. I earned my certification as a project management professional, and I was then in construction project management, and I was dealing with projects that were valued between $500,000 to $70 million. But it wasn't until I actually had this particular project. It was a real estate portfolio management project that I was dealing with, converting old deeds and rights of way into digital records and then adding a GIS map layer, that I realized I really like product. And so it would have to be that with all of this, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I then was recruited by a construction company, or is actually a software company in Arizona that makes construction software. And I touched all levels of the product life cycle. I served in numerous roles, between a business analyst to a product owner, to a user experience researcher, to product marketing. But one thing that I really loved was that user research. I really loved being able to come up with a hypothesis, conduct contextual analysis, do user testing, heuristic evaluations, card sorting, you named it. But one thing that I really, really learned in that particular situation was that the depth of insight gained by interviewing customers and understanding their pain points. The second thing I learned in that particular position was that the deep empathy that one needs as a product manager, just being in product itself. So again, what didn't kill me made me stronger. I then moved into prop tech, which is short for property technology. I worked for a property management company to basically take their legacy construction management portal and convert it over to Salesforce CRM. As part of that, I moved into a product management position because my coworkers ended up leaving and they needed someone to help lead the group. I introduced continuous discovery. I also implemented a ride-along program so that we could ride along with field personnel to see how our estimating mobile app was being used in the field. And through all of that, in addition to that, I also was asked to serve as a Scrum Master, and I was also asked to serve in DevOps. Again, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And that leads me to my position where I am today. I am a product manager in CivTech, which is short for Civilian Technology for a government agency. I have aspirations to someday start an innovation laboratory. I see so many opportunities where product could really improve the lives of our 1.7 million Phoenix residents. So what I do today is I work on vision, strategy, roadmap, but along with that, I have introduced moderated testing, user behavioral analytics, journey maps, user testing, and I'm currently building a proof of concept with machine learning. And that old adage is true. What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. Madame Toastmaster.
Awesome. Thank you for that speech, Sarah. We're going to take another minute to write down some of our feedback and then again, send it over to Sarah. Perfect.
Back to you, Rosie.
Awesome. Great. So now we're going to move on to our, what is it called?
Table
Great.
topics.
Yes, sorry. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our table topics session, and I'm going to pass it over to Clara.
Hi, everyone. So today with the table topics, to give you guys a intro on what we'll be doing, the goal of table topics is to challenge us to be able to improve our impromptu speaking skills. This session can be a bit scary. I know it was definitely scary my first time, but my hypothesis is that the more we practice speaking on the spot, the better we get at public speaking in general. So the way this is going to work is I will ask a question, then I will pause for a few seconds, and then I will pick someone to answer the question. The speaker will have about 1 to 2 minutes to be able to respond to the question, and then we'll move on to the next question. To make this a little bit fun for us, we will also be asking participants to vote for the best table topic speech, and the vote counter will be Margaret, so you can send those over to her. Okay, so for the first question, if you had the opportunity to be a user tester for any product, what would it be and what would you want to test? I am going to hand this over to Kirsten. If you want me to repeat the question, I can.
No, I think I got it. So just confirming the question being, if I could test any product, what it would be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, where do I begin? So I actually spent a couple of my early years in building products, doing testing. So I have had the joy of testing a wild variety of products. In terms of what I'd like to test the most, I think it's probably in the space of my passions at the moment. So probably AR and VR, as you can probably see the gaming PC behind me. I love the AR and VR both kind of take our world to an entirely new place, and testing in that is basically like literally walking through alternate worlds. A huge fan of what those technologies can do. So I would be thrilled to bits to be able to contribute and give back to shaping those worlds. And thank you for the fabulous question. Back to you, Clara.
Perfect. Thank you for that. So moving on to the second question. Why do you think user testing is important when building a successful feature or product? So for this question, I'm going to hand it over to Sheena. I hope I pronounced your name right. Wait, let me see. Is she here? I did check.
Looks like she slipped off the meeting.
Okay, that's fine. So somebody else is going to be in the hot seat. I am going to ask, let's see who is here. Rajashi, did I pronounce your name right?
You did. And can you please repeat the question once more, please?
Of course. Why do you think user testing is important when building a successful feature or product?
Yes, had been in product world for almost 15 plus years, so I cannot downplay the importance of usability testing and user testing and all. So it means like it's absolutely, when you have an hypothesis, you want to make sure that it is absolutely proved to the point that it is effective and most efficient. So, and it is all with A/B testing, all the different kinds of testing that is available in the product world. I think usability testing is one of the vital ones that is that gives us an opportunity to see how users are interacting with the features that you are actually trying to bring forward into the ecosystem. So it is absolutely important that usability testing or user testing should be conducted whenever a big feature is launching, because our customers are used to a certain way of doing things with our site. So when you are making an overhauling change, user testing is absolutely needed to make sure that you are in the right path. Thank you, and back to you, Clara.
Thank you for that. Moving on to the third question. So let's say that you're the product manager of one of your favorite products. What are some things you would like to find out from the user testing session? And this question, I'm going to hand it over to Amelia.
Awesome. Should I pick a product to go off on?
Yeah.
So one product that especially comes to mind for me is TikTok. Specifically, I would love to gain more insight into how the algorithm works and how we might be able to test how specific changes to the specific algorithm that's used to get videos onto the feed might impact how users respond to videos, the like to comment ratio, and how users just generally spend more time on the app depending on different variations of the algorithms that we might end up using. I've always found the algorithms that they use to be very precise for me, and so I'd be really interested to gain some more insight there.
Perfect. I think we have time for one more question. So for the last question, when would you say is the best time to incorporate user testing in the product development cycle? And I'm going to hand this over to Heather.
Hi. I would say your question is, when would you say is the best time to incorporate user testing into the product development lifecycle? So I think actually it's important to have user testing throughout the product development lifecycle from the very beginning, like all the way through to the end. And that includes whether you're doing something like a paper prototype and you put it in front of the user so that they can see and you can use that to start a conversation that's basically starting off the user testing. And then moving even further through the product development lifecycle, I think that it's good for the user to be able to see like the MVP or the feature in like the UAT or in like a demo, just to provide feedback. And then, so you're always making sure you're on the same track with the user, and to get that feedback and to keep iterating on that until you get it right, and then you can deliver it into production or deploy it into production. So I think that your question, when would it be best to put it in the life cycle? I think anywhere along the life cycle at all of the different stages to make sure that that you're really delivering and meeting the customer's needs. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
So yeah, thank you, Kirsten, Rajashi, Amelia, and Heather. Thank you guys for participating in this. I think now we're going to move on to voting. Is that right? And everyone can pass their votes over to Margaret.
Perfect. Yeah, so as a reminder, vote, send over those votes to Margaret. So typically, who did you think was the best table topic speaker of the day? And at the end, we'll share that. But for now, I'm going to pass it over to Liz, who is our general evaluator. Liz, you have the floor.
Great, thank you. So now we are in the third portion of today's meeting, where we provide feedback on the prepared speeches and the meeting structure overall. So first, we'll talk through the evaluations on the prepared speeches. Then we'll talk through the mechanics of the speech with our grammarian, counter, and timer. And finally, I'll close this portion of the meeting with some reflections on my own on the meeting as a whole. So with that, I will be kicking off the first evaluation by introducing Sam Doctor, who will be doing our first speech evaluation. So Sam, you have the floor.
Thanks, Liz. All right. Jennifer, I'm so excited that I got to evaluate this speech. Firstly, I really resonated with your topic. I think properly communicating an issue or a problem, particularly a product, is one of those skills that is rarely spoken to or spoken about out loud. It's one of those inherent things that I think a lot of people assume people should just know how to do properly. And so I really appreciated the topic overall. I'm sure the rest of the club did as well. So first off, that was great. And I really enjoyed all of the content. A few other things that I thought you did really, really well in your speech was your pace and your vocal variety. I was really engaged the whole time throughout your speech and listening to you, and found that you articulated everything really, really well. So those were some things that you did very well when it came to giving your speech today. A few notes for moving forward in the future, if you were to give a similar speech or this one again in the future. I found that your intro, though very interesting, I love data-driven facts, and I really resonated with your notes around people's schedules being super filled with meetings. However, I found there was a slight disconnect between the beginning of your speech speaking to overfilled calendars. I was expecting to hear about how can we reduce that load on our calendars and how can we free up more space for actual work, instead of going into what your speech really was about, which was how can we properly communicate issues, how do we escalate them, and the three main components of communicating those elements, which I was really excited to hear about. So I think if you were to give this speech again, you could even start with your personal example of when you were in that Scrum meeting and you were going back and forth about deciding whether or not an issue is actually an issue. I think that's a really great way to open up a speech about that topic, because I also really connected with that story, in addition to the data-driven opening that you had in the speech. So a few notes for if you were to come back to this topic in the future. But overall, again, I really appreciated how you connected with us using those personal examples throughout your speech. You gave us key takeaways that we can apply to our own work and product. And again, you articulated all of this and communicated very well. You are a very strong speaker, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you again. And with that, of course, General Evaluator.
All right, thank you so much for that wonderful evaluation. So articulate. So it's always just such a great reminder how important it is to receive feedback, and feedback is a gift, but it helps make us even better speakers. So with that, I'll be introducing our second speech evaluator, Melissa Moore. Melissa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Liz. Hi, Ashley. You gave such a wonderful speech, and I'm so excited to be able to share my feedback with you. So first, I loved your topic, how I pivoted to product management. I think most of us have gone through it. And so even personally for me, it really resonated because I've thought about switching to product management. I also really love your personal storytelling format. So you reeled us in and you really piqued my curiosity from the first 30 seconds of when you started. I thought that you gave a very well delivered speech. It was conversational and natural, and you also did some really great eye contact, which I'm trying to like look at the screen and then also in my camera, I'm like, how do I do that? So I don't know how you did it, but that was great. And I don't think you were even reading your notes, because if you were, I could not tell. I was like, I can't believe that you just delivered it so naturally. I think the one thing that I wanted to know more of was how did you actually get the new product role that you had, given that it's entitled like how you pivoted to product management. So I was really curious on like the tactical, like what was the interview process like, and how did you attain the skills to get the product role? if you shared that with us, like in the future, we wouldn't have to hypothesize on our own and how you did it. So to summarize, I thought that you had really terrific structure in your storytelling. You shared relevant background about your information, about your background. You stated the problem and also shared how you solved it and made recommendations. Finally, you ended us on a high note with that amazing quote. So bravo to you, and I look forward to hearing future speeches.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
That was a fantastic evaluation. So with that, we're going to be moving on to the speech evaluation for our third speech with our third evaluator, who is Yenith. Yenith, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. So where is Sarah? I wanted to see. So I'm Yenith. I don't see Sarah. I very much enjoyed your speech. So this is my first time evaluating, so I'm very excited to be evaluating your speech. I felt it was very personal. You started off very like it was very visual. You brought up like the magnet and what kills you doesn't, it makes you stronger. And you brought up the story, a very personal story, and that was very vulnerable. And I felt it was, like that reels us in, bringing up that personal story. I'm sorry, I'm reading my notes here on the screen. I felt that you were very warm. You used gestures. You kept us very engaged. You made eye contact with us, and I didn't feel like you were reading your notes or anything. It was, you were on the screen, smiling, great expression, using gestures. You kept me engaged. I love the journey that you went from being a project manager in real estate to now becoming a product manager wearing different hats, now being a product manager. Your pacing was great. Let's see here. And then, okay, go down here. So in terms of some things that I would consider to probably work on, but the thing is, as a user, I'm a user designer. And so the things is, like being a product manager, one of the things is like we have to consider our audience. And I felt you did great that you addressed, you brought up like moderated testing. You were listing out these things that as a product manager, as an audience in the tech field, we would understand what those things are, like the continuous discovery, journey mapping. However, there are a few people that are in this group that don't know those things. So it's maybe you could explain it more like what those things are. I know it's a very short speech and I know you're trying to list all those things. Like for instance, like I knew what a Scrum Master is. So how do you work with a Scrum Master as like a product manager? Like those things, I'm trying to figure that out. And what exactly is journey mapping for people that don't know what that is? And what is an example of like moderated testing? But other than that, those are just like things that I would like pick. But other than that, I felt like it was great. And I can tell that you've done many speeches before and you were very comfortable and it was very obvious and I very much enjoyed it. And I would love to hear more of your speeches moving forward. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that very thorough evaluation. So that wraps up the speech evaluators. And now we're going to be moving on to our grammarian, who will help us evaluate our grammar and word usage, including usage of the word of the day. And that will be led by Anwisha. So Anwisha, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And it's amazing to be able to, hear the usage of both kind of field jargon as well as kind of similes, sayings, fables, and things like that. So it was pretty interesting to go through all the different speakers. So, like for example, Jennifer used the story of the shepherd who cried wolf, and that's perfect in terms of how escalations go. And she also, I somehow, considering we all have such booked calendars, the awful lot of time phrase struck to me because that's exactly how much we spend in terms of meetings that may or may not be useful. So thank you for that. Ashley, for me, again, you using a quote from Marcus Aurelius, hats off. And the phrase that stuck with me was self-care, because this is extremely important for anybody in this crazy, crazy world out there. And thank you for highlighting how it's important to incorporate tiny things to just make life a little bit more happy. And Sarah, your whole story was basically out of the saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And you use all kinds of, you drew parallels throughout your life on how you got driven by that. And also thank you for introducing kind of typical techniques or terminology used in user testing as well as product management. I'm going to look up some of these, so it's very useful for me. In terms of the word of the day, both Ashley and Sarah have used it. Multiple other people also mentioned it, especially Clara mentioned it in her intro, as well as Rajesh used it in her speech as well. So thank you for that. And I did not catch any improper grammatical usage of the English language. So thank you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful report. So next we'll move on to one of our other function evaluators, our ah counter, who is helping us track our ahs and ums, which will be led by Tanya Stolnik. So Tanya, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Liz. So I got everyone. Here we go. You ready? Okay. Lori, 3 ahs, 5 ums, 2 so's, 2 buts. Jennifer, 1 ah, 3 ums, 2 so's, and an all right as a other. Ashley, 1 2 so's. Sarah, 6 ahs, 6 plus ums, 2 so's, a what, which is a repeat, and then again as another filler word that was used a couple times. Clara, 4 ahs, 5 ums, 2 so's, and okay as a filler word. Let's see, Sirisha, our guest. So 2 ahs, 3 ums, 1 and 1 so. Liz, 1 ah, 6 plus ums, 1 so. Anwisha, 2 ahs, 5 ums, 3 so's, 1 like, and I as a repeat and again as a filler. Rajashi, 2 ahs, 2 ums, 3 so's. Amulia, 1 ah, 4 ums. Sam, 4 ahs, 4 ums, 1 so, and an all right as an other. Heather, 3 ahs, 6 plus ums. Melissa, 3 ums, 3 so's, 1 like. Yenith had 1 ah, 3 ums, 3 so's, 6 plus likes, and 1 but. And did I miss anybody? Kirsten, I think I missed you. Kirsten, 1 ah, 2 ums, 2 so's. And Rosie, 4 ahs, 6 plus ums, 1 4 so's, an and a but Rosie, you spoke the most, so it's all good. Good job, everybody. I will log all these, so if I went through it too fast, it'll be in our folder. And back to you, Liz.
Thank you, Tanya. What a great comprehensive report. It's always humbling to hear just how many filler words we use and how much we can get better in that area. So for the next portion, we're going to have our timer report, which will share how well we've tracked into the targeted timeframes for prepared speeches and table topics, which will be led by Monique Tucker. So Monique, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Liz. So sharing out our timer report for today, I will say overall, no one went over time. So great job, everyone. Starting with our prepared speeches. For our general speeches, the range is from 5 to 7 minutes, and our icebreakers are 4 to 6. Jennifer came in just shy at 6:58, so right in there. Ashley, your time was 4.5 minutes. And Sarah, you came in at 5 minutes and 5 seconds. For our table topics, we try to go between 1 and 2 minutes for those. Kirsten, you took 43 seconds for your topic. Raj, you're 1 minute and 2 seconds. Amelia, 42 seconds. Heather, 1 minute and 10 seconds. And now for our general evaluators, which we aim to be between 2 and 3 minutes. We have Sam, you are at 2 minutes and 53 seconds. Melissa, 1 minute and 43 seconds. And Yenith, 2 minutes and 41 seconds. Thanks, everyone. Back to you, Liz.
Thank you, Monique. Fantastic report. So next, it's time to hear who won the vote for the best table topics round. Marguerite, can you share who won the vote?
Yes, and thank you everyone for voting. The winner was Rajeshi.
Congrats.
And back to Toastmaster of the day, Rosie.
It's back to me, I think.
Sorry.
All right, no worries. Yeah, no worries. So now we'll be moving on to the final portion of the evaluation section with my evaluation with the meeting as a whole. All right, guys, so great meeting overall. So first of all, the Sergeant of Arms, great job starting the meeting on time. Great welcome for the guests. Great intro for the Toastmaster of the day. One thing I'd challenge you to consider is letting the Toastmaster of the day speak to the structure of the meeting, which would allow us to have maybe a little more fidelity on each meeting's purpose and their role a little bit, and to allow the opportunity to introduce who will be the owner of that particular role for the day. So Toastmaster of the day, great job introducing the theme. You sparked our interest on why this theme matters. That was fantastic. Also, great job remembering the 1 minute of silence for feedback. I know so many Toastmasters in the past have forgotten, but you got that right with the first speech evaluation, so that was awesome. One thing I'd suggest you considering is beefing up your intros a little bit for each key role, especially the speakers and the table topics master. Consider providing a little more context on who each person is, and this will help us get more excited about what they're about to share with us. So for the table topics master, great job introducing the purpose of this round and providing really clear instructions for voting. Great questions that were very relevant to today's theme. For the evaluations, great feedback overall, great balance of positives and opportunities for improvement. I love the focus throughout the evaluations of how the speech personally resonated with you. That framing is so fantastic and so meaningful to the speakers. One thing I'd encourage you to consider is to always close your evaluation with your favorite part of the speech. It's just a great closure and a good way to kind of move on to the next section. So overall, it's been a fantastic meeting. I'm happy to see so many guests and so many new members joining. And with that, I'll pass it over to our Toastmaster of the day.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your feedback, Liz. I definitely will take that into consideration, and thank you for everything. With that, I will pass it on to our president. Well, actually, Erica's out, but I'll pass it back to Lori. Yes, to discuss any of the club business. Perfect.
Thanks, Rosie. Let me grab Erica's notes. So for club business today, you will find it in the agenda as well. But as I mentioned earlier, we're going to do a Q&A session quickly after today's meeting. So if you want to, or if you have any questions, feel free to just stay on for a little bit and we can answer whatever you have. And in addition to that, next meeting after that, we will do an onboarding session for all you new members that just joined if you have any questions about pathways or anything else. I'm also going to put in a plug for our club's Facebook group for our actual full club members. So we do have 2 Facebook groups, one for kind of like anybody and everybody, and then the one I just put in the chat is for the new members that just joined. We'll put in information about upcoming roles and stuff like that is where you'll find that there. So please be on the lookout from those posts from our new VP of PR, which is Anwaisha, and give them some love, add some comments. Today there were some really cool takeaways, so I'm hoping those get posted on Facebook too, so I can go back personally and look them up because I need to use some of Jen's speech and some of the things you all shared today. In addition to that, Svetlana has started an interview prep session. I think we're still doing that. So if you want to learn more about that, feel free to reach out to Svetlana and she can give you some more information. Other than that, I think that's all I have. And then do I have to put on my Sergeant of Arms hat again? Is that what I do? All right, Toastmaster. All right, so back to Amy's role as a Sergeant of Arms today. We're going to wrap up today's meeting. Thanks everyone for joining. And if you have any questions, feel free to stick around. Oh, actually, I lied. I missed one part. You want to know whose roles are for next meeting. So let me share that with you all. I'm going to put it in the chat. Here's a list that shows everybody's meeting roles for the next upcoming meeting, which will be on July 25th. They're all spelled out in here. As the VP of VP of Education, thank you for everybody responding and jumping on roles this meeting. Like, you have no idea how helpful it is from a leadership perspective to just email out the group that's doesn't have a role to replace you. It's like, I can't even tell you how amazing it was this time. So thank you for everybody that jumped in and filled in somebody's role. It really takes a lot of pressure off of all of us as a club. So I encourage you to do that again. If you can't make it, that's okay. Just help us fill your role with somebody else. So that's all the roles that we have. Again, if you want to sign up for anything in advance, we also have a sheet where you can just go ahead and basically tell me what role you want to have in the future, and you're probably 99% likely to get that role. So that is the best way to be prepared, is just pick what you want. With that, I will wrap us up a little bit early, and if you have questions, feel free to stay on and we'll answer them for everybody. Cool. All right, have a good Sunday, everyone. We'll see you later.
Thanks all.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.